For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. On infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections.
If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who want it until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious.
Violence and vandalism is being led by Antifa and other radical left-wing groups who are terrorizing the innocent, destroying jobs, hurting businesses, and burning down buildings. They are coming after me because I am fighting for you. That's what's happening.
Greetings, fellow thought criminals, and thank you for joining the insurrection. I'm Michael Lauber, and today I'm joined by Kelly Walker from Freedom Talk Magazine. How you doing this morning, Kelly?
Michael, it's always an honor and a pleasure to be here. You do such great work.
Well, always happy to have you, and we, as always, we've got a lot of craziness going on today. Sorry, I'm trying to fix something here in the background real quick. I added something while the intro was playing. But I wanted to pull up this, kind of go over what's in your latest issue of Freedom Talk Magazine and remind everybody that right now this is a free resource. Obviously, Kelly can use your support to be able to keep bringing you articles and information the mainstream media doesn't want to cover, bring people's personal stories. But you had this out there on Twitter. And again, I always like connecting history to current events.
Yeah, the latest issue of Freedom Talk Magazine is What Makes a True Christian. And Freedom Talk Magazine examines current events, politics in the light of history, theology, the founding principles of our country. We have a lot of different authors who weigh in. It's a very high quality publication. You know, the articles are still accessible and they're fairly short, but they take a deep dive so that we can really understand what's going on. So I posted this today, and it's based on observations. I also talked to a lot of people. I've worked very hard over the last 5 or 6 years to get into some of these high-level circles. I've been to Washington, D.C., and it's all been to seek the truth on what's really going on. So I have seen this disturbing change in President Trump. And as the graphic depicts, you know, we had this president who would put the hat back on the Marine, who seemed to have, you know, in spite of being sort of, well, I would say we wouldn't call him a humble figure, that he did show some humility and he seemed to be really serving the people. Now he wants to build a Romanesque style Arch of Triumph. He seems to be fine with a golden statue. He's reposting depictions of himself in gold on Mount Rushmore. I want to point out too that none of the presidents on Mount Rushmore were alive to promote that, and I'm not certain they would have. I think George Washington would have said, no, I'm going back to be a citizen. So I see these things as disturbing in and of themselves. However, what I see as more disturbing, Michael, is that there are any number of victims of lawfare and weaponization of the government that are going unheard, that haven't been delivered, and that were obviously very demonstrably harmed by the federal government. I don't even say the Biden DOJ anymore, because the DOJ is still very dirty and corrupt. I've brought some recordings that I went up alone into DOJ, and I've revealed these to the public. It's very, very obvious right now what's going on. And yet I had heard, and this 4th of July weekend, I talked to many people who are either slated to go to prison or trying to get someone out because they were politically persecuted. And look, the news, the White House, the Senate, Congress, we all recognize that these things happen, and yet there's been no cure, there's been no restitution. So I talked to families, wives, children, over the July 4th weekend that we're hoping that these 250 pardons were going to happen. And I think that's more than a rumor, but I've heard from a couple different sources that advisors to President Trump, probably Susie Wiles and some others, looked at the polls instead of saying, let's do what's right, let's take that risk, and said, no, this is not a good time to do this. It's going to be, politically unwise for President Trump. So we've seen this movement from doing the right thing and having that audacity and bravery to say, screw you left, screw you corrupt politicians, we're going to do the right
And
thing.
media. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I honestly think, ironically, that this was very bad advice to President Trump, because the backlash, people are saying, hey, what about the little people? And something that was very, very bad PR, bad appearances, was all these people have been ignored. And in the case of the targeted parents, we've asked President Trump to intervene directly. We've sent people to talk to him even. And suddenly, right after the 4th of July weekend, it was an emergency for Donald Trump to appear and advocate against a soccer call. Not that was, well, that's arguable. Should a president of the United States be influencing that? But really,
Yeah.
it was a slap in the face to a lot of people, because it's like, you're not going to help these families that are destitute, that actually, a lot of these people, if not all of them, really stood up for our country and held the line. And yet you're going to, it's an emergency to do a soccer call.
Well, yeah. And it's kind of one thing to comment on it, because, it was pretty obviously a bad call. At the very least, should not have been a red card. But I think the line too far is reaching out to people directly and getting it overturned and changed, especially when that's normally not FIFA's policy.
Well, and I get it. It's these games are very visible to the world, and it's kind of on the level of, in a way, Jesse Owens beating the
Max Schnell.
Yeah, exactly. And I get it. It's a matter of national pride, but people have to come before politics. People have to come before pride. So it's kind of fun without substance. We're putting out this depiction of ourselves as this great Christian nation, and yet where is the church? Where are the leaders? Where are the politicians? They're ignoring these people. I literally went up to Todd Blanche's office and was told to my face by his senior counsel regarding targeted parents, we don't negotiate with terrorists. That was not only offensive, that was very dangerous, because these parents were arrested and jailed and persecuted, had their lives destroyed, because Merrick Garland manipulated things, because the DOJ pursued us as supposed domestic terrorists. And so something like that should be front page news, but it's just buried, because apparently the DOJ, they want to move on. I believe Todd Blanche is protecting the institution.
Well, of course.
He blocked parents like me from testifying at his recent Kabuki Theater roundtable. They had this meeting. Great. You shared to the public what I shared 3 years ago, that Merrick Garland, that this was a federal issue, that Merrick Garland put his hands on the scale. Like, that's your big revelation, and then you're going to do nothing. So I see through it, and I would hope that more people can wake up, because there's been a lot of PR around people put into place. And frankly, Joe Hoft, Gateway Pundit, Grant Stinchfields, others have reported that Todd Blanche got rid of Ed Martin, dissolved the weaponization working group after Ed started investigating Adam Schiff. And there are a lot of signs that say, look, Todd Blanche is not a guy to be trusted. At the very least, put him under the microscope. I'd say in a half an hour of research or less, you could figure out who this guy is, and he's not our friend.
Yes. Well, we'll get more into a lot of that here in a little bit, and let's jump into our main stories here. But I also wanted to say, did you know that Jesse Owens and Max Schnell actually got to be like really good friends after the Olympics, lifelong friends?
I had heard that. That's a tremendous story.
Yeah, I think at some point, and I can't remember which way this went, but one of them had to bail the other one out financially after, I think it was Schnell had to loan Jesse Owens money after they went after him for tax evasion somehow. And I remember this was really shady too. The government doing this in a really underhanded way and basically ruining his life. And then Schnell gave him a loan, helped him financially with his defense against the feds. And But yeah, it's interesting how stories like that work out. But we got big developments, big changes. Just yesterday, gas prices were actually, on average, down nationwide to pre-war with Iran levels. But I bet they're spiking back up today. President Trump signals end of waste of time ceasefire with Iran. In this brief statement that he made yesterday, I can't believe it took him this long to come to this realization, but I essentially said, they're crazy. They're cuckoo, I think is what he said, and that you can't negotiate with liars, which again, I, I think like from the beginning, this has always been the issue there, that they are going to say whatever they need. Again, this is a pattern of behavior. This is based on their faith. It's a whole, it's obvious. And it has been for years. But he tried to give them every way out, give them an opportunity to surrender, to make peace, but it's clearly not possible. So it sounds like we are actually gearing back up for major strikes again. There's already been some. Iran attacked 3 commercial vessels traveling through the straits yesterday, made threats to numerous others. They attacked an LNG tanker, an oil super tanker, and I can't remember what the third vessel was, with drones. But we've already made some retaliatory strikes, but it sounds like there's a lot more on the way.
Yeah, I don't know if people in the White House are naive and don't understand geopolitics, history, and religion. But Islam is based on conquest for hundreds and hundreds of years. That's been the case. And certainly Iran, after the Islamic Revolution of, what was it, 1979? I'm trying to remember
Yeah.
the exact year.
Yep.
But they are extreme ideologues. They believe that what they're doing is divinely appointed at a level that I think many Christians don't have the fervor that they have. It's
Yeah.
warped and it's brutal. But to think that a memo or sanctions or anything like that is going to stop these people. Their MO all along has been to buy time, to do everything they can to discredit President Trump. They would like our side to lose the midterms. And,
Yeah.
unfortunately, a lot of us think, I respect a lot that President Trump has done, but we're getting exactly the opposite of what we voted for. We're in another endless war in the Middle
Yeah.
East. People aren't being helped. The promises to restore people aren't there. And frankly, I still have a lot of questions about the Epstein files. And I think,
Yeah.
like a post I did today, I think that a lot of powerful people are being protected because, the people at the top recognize that it would have economic impact and really shake up the world. But still, I'm an advocate for doing the right thing, whether it's expedient or not. And I think
Well,
a
yeah.
lot of Americans are at that place, like just do the right thing.
Yeah, and that's really what we need. That's part of why there's so many problems right now leading up to this midterms, of not just doing the right thing and doing what Trump ran on. Yeah, the Epstein files. I mean, I think that's one of the most egregious ones. It's obvious, especially after all the Pam Bondi flops, the hostage video with Bongino and what's his name, with the FBI, Kash Patel. That we just need to get back on track. But to take this back to Iran again, that. They struck U.S. military sites in Bahrain, Kuwait, as Trump declares ceasefire over. This is the ceasefire, as you said, was never going to work. I think when Trump extended the hand the first time and they slapped it, that should have been the only opportunity they got. Then we should have just pounded their leadership into oblivion. Like, if we're going to go over there and do something, need to do it and actually finish the job. I do think wiping out Iran's Islamic government is good for us and good for the world. Again, they are the clearinghouse for nearly every terrorist organization on earth. They provide the financial support. They help them move money. They provide logistics, intel, everything. We guys treat them like that. They are not going to negotiate with us in good faith. As you said, they have the religious fervor, and unfortunately, they act on it. And this is at the same time, whereas a lot of Christians are wimps. Now, they won't really stand and fight. Unfortunately, they have this pervasive ideology that's infiltrated Christianity, that there's a lot of people think you're just supposed to be a doormat, that, never raise your fist to protect yourself or anything like that. And again, nothing can be further from the truth, but it's very easy to manipulate people, especially if you hold up a Bible in front of them.
Yeah, and that's why I can't encourage people enough to go to realfreedomtalk.com. Look at some of the past issues, because I have addressed these topics on that theological level, and certainly the latest issue, what makes true Christian, we address some of these things. And unfortunately, there's this a myth or deception within Christianity of passive piety. You just sit back and say, "Oh well, God will handle everything," or be subject to the governing authorities, which is a complete misinterpretation of
Yeah.
scripture and proper exegesis that shows that that was a specific message for a specific time, and it leaves out a whole lot of examples like Queen Esther, a lot of biblical figures, Daniel, who stood up to the governing authorities of their time.
Hmm.
So we have this wimpy Christianity, and I see so many people defer to, well, I could fight, I could get involved, but God is sovereign. At what point and in what time in the Bible has God expected people not to participate?
Yeah.
And what we need in this country is good, solid spiritual leadership. Unfortunately, we have this Paula White gal who's a nut bar. I'm just going to say, I'm going to
Yeah.
be very frank. And a lot of our religious leaders, they want to celebrate how great of a country they are, but they're completely ignoring people, like all these victims of weaponization. Like I tell Eric Metaxas, look, you've written about Dietrich Bonhoeffer, some great works, but we're in a Bonhoeffer moment, and you're in DC, living it up. And I think Eric does great work, but I'm trying to get people like this to say, look, we are in such a time as this right now. you know, um, Reread your works and roll up your sleeves and start helping people, because the church, I'm going to say this boldly, the church should be ashamed, and I'm talking about all of them together. They should be ashamed that people are looking to the government to restore their lives. The churches should be getting together and saying, look, we see this suffering, it's all over in the news. We're gonna bind up these people. Who in our community is suffering that we can help, that we can restore? That's the church that Jesus built. What we're seeing right now is a sham. And in fact, when I got back from Washington D.C., hearing these terrible words from the DOJ, very dangerous words for Americans, very oppressive, we went to church, and that weekend we got a sermon on submit to the governing authorities. It was very much directed at me. So not only are we sometimes seeing churches being very passive, but they can be abusive and try to get you to stand down and stop fighting. This is not that's a social club. That's a business. Like, if you're not out on the streets right now, if you're not bringing in, look at Matthew 25. When Jesus comes to judge the earth, he's going to say, "Did you visit me when I was in prison? Did you deliver me? Did you help me?" The churches aren't doing that, and it's to their shame. They
Yep.
need to stop having worship services. God's not going to hear that music if there are people at their doorstep that are suffering. And we're one family. We're going to get by, but the churches haven't stepped forward to help us,
Yeah.
and that's a national shame. So I'm going to speak boldly, and I'm going to tell them, I've been on this planet for 56 years. Not that this matters a great deal, but I have a degree in theology. I'm trained at a scholarly level in proper hermeneutics and exegesis, and I can read that book and tell you what I'm seeing today has happened before in history, and it's a cautionary tale, because human nature hasn't changed. So churches, get out there, find these people who are suffering, bind up their wounds, be that good Samaritan, or you're going to stand before your creator someday and have to explain why you buried your talent. My
Yeah.
sermon's over.
Yeah, if anything, I think it's really time for another crusade, especially as we see like Islam on the march throughout Europe and throughout here. And it's unacceptable. Our governments are not doing anything about it. In Europe, they're protecting them. We see all the attacks in Africa. It's time to actually face this threat and wipe it out and deal with it as it is.
It puzzles me, because there are people who would pick up their gun if somebody were breaking their house and protect their family, but they think, they're very passive. We have an Islamic invasion going on right now. It's not always military like it was in the past, but make no mistake, there is a plan for the destruction of our country, and it's based on open borders, infiltration, and replacement culture. And we've got these bad actors setting up mosques and everything else. It's fine if you want to be Islamic, but do it in your own country, because this is not a place where those values are consistent with our culture. Even our law system is based partly on the Ten Commandments. It is our very law system reflects the values of the Bible, not the Quran.
Yes. Yep. And again, we need to start living in reality again, face the threat for what it is, or we're going, or we are going to lose the West. And we're already on the verge in Europe, and I don't know if there's enough time to save them, or if they've already gone too far down that rabbit hole and there's no bringing them back. Hopefully there is, but again, we got to start actually facing this threat, and that starts with Iran right now. Again, cutting off the capital and their ability to move funds around will do a great deal to stop the advance of Islam and Islamic terrorism around the world. So, time to just finish them off. Now that we're in there and we've already crossed the threshold, we've got to just finish the job. Otherwise, again, this is going to turn into an endless war. But we got.
And I've had it with these people, and some of them are my friends. I'll be brief here, but if you critique this administration, even if you have valid points, you're a black pillar and a doomer. And look, we can't be blindly following without critiquing. This is still a human administration. It has flaws and faults. We have to be transparent and honest. So stop telling people, "Oh, you're blackpilling." Just look at the validity of the arguments. Is it true or is it not? It's that simple.
Yeah. California commie visits Iran to lead crowd in chants of down with the USA. Well, I mean, this sounds a lot like a treason case, giving aid and comfort to our enemies.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Jackson Hinkle there, if they haven't already opened an investigation, they need to. And I want to bring up one other image. This is from Khomeini's funeral a few days ago. A banner reading $100 million bounty for Trump was displayed in the religious city of Qom, where the body of slain Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei was brought as funeral ceremonies continued Tuesday. This is from a couple days ago. So again, they haven't stopped. They haven't backed down. This is now. We also had a person that was an aide to Elizabeth Warren and also over there at this funeral. Again, singing the praises of Khamenei and. Now, maybe she didn't chant. I'm sure she chanted "Death to America." But again, now both of these need to be prosecuted. I think this guy should be brought up on treason charges and executed. Because again, we've got, as we have these laws in the books, we have to actually enforce them. If you're over there giving aid and comfort to our enemies, a message has to be sent that this is unacceptable. I know the left is going to cry about free speech and everything else, but again, there are boundaries on that too. If you're making threats, or in this case, giving aid and comfort to our enemies, there have to be consequences for that. We got to stop being wimps and actually enact and enforce the laws within our country and not just making excuses.
Yeah, and I was looking for one of these in a series of books. I got to know Boone Cutler.
Oh yeah, fifth generation warfare.
We had a lot of talks. I had him on my show, and we would meet for coffee and discuss these things. Some people in our country need to wake the hell up, because today's warfare is not primarily tanks and drones and everything else. That's bad enough. That's called kinetic warfare. That's fourth generation warfare. We're in fifth generation warfare. And this book, which was written by the PLA, tells you all about it. I wish more people would read that or learn about it. There's any number of books on that. Gordon Chang has written about it.
Yep.
I'm gonna denude my bookshelf here. Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Lohmeyer, who's now Undersecretary of the Air Force, good friend, he's written about it. It's just, it goes on and on, guys. You need to educate yourself to what's going on. We've been in a war for a long time, and it's more insidious than any kinetic warfare. I think a lot of people have expected Donald Trump to declare war and use those wartime powers and just start rounding up Antifa, the communists, the enemies of this country. Unfortunately, now we're mired in this kinetic warfare that's not going to go anywhere, because it's not taking out the ideology. Our military needs to wake up, and I think some people understand it. Obviously, Matthew does, and he wrote this during the the Biden administration, and lost his career over it. Was discharged, and he paid the price for this. But we have got to address the ideology. We've got to address the psychological warfare, because that is what is defeating this country. Our schools have been infiltrated, entertainment, everything. We have to get serious about it. boycotting products and making memes isn't going to solve this problem. At some point, we have to round up people and get them the hell out of our country, if not put them in prison. And in some cases, yeah, we need to execute them. This is a
Yeah.
very real war, and it's more dangerous. Unfortunately, Boone Cutler passed on, but he
Yeah.
understands. He knows. He has that military mind.
Yeah. Well, again, like I think we just got to take things seriously and stop backing down. That's why we're in this mess right now, anyways. Half measures. I know a lot of people are upset about us going into Iran, that they wanted no new wars, no new anything. That is something President Trump campaigned on. I do think like going to get Maduro was a little different. That was, an under 2 hour operation to remove a narco terrorist just past our
Plus,
southern border. Yeah, that was
this
sending
is where
fentanyl directly into the country.
yeah.
Oh,
And
sorry. Go ahead.
a big issue that a lot of people don't know about, but I do because I worked for Mike Lindell, is this is the source of the
Yep.
electronic election machines that could flip elections. It's
Yeah.
Venezuela is where what Smartmatic and Dominion got their starts. So I think that was a wise move, but we also went in and got out, which I think is pretty key as well.
Yeah. And, Iran was obviously going to be a longer conflict than that. But, again, we got to finish the job. I do think that, if you cripple the leadership, cripple the IRGC, and arm the people, that they'll take over. We can get out of there without boots on the ground. But, it's not going to be an easy operation at this point. I think that window is unfortunately past where we had momentum. And unfortunately, everything kind of heated up right as the people in Iran were getting back on the street. We're actually going to have Annie Cyrus on with us tomorrow. We're going to get more into detail and what's going on in the ground and the other updates, since obviously it's rapidly changing there. But originally, part of what we were planned on discussing tomorrow was kind of how, unfortunately, these renewed military strikes in both directions tamped down people getting back out on the streets and really pushing to end the Islamic government there again. And it's not their fault. They got to be safe. They don't want to be out there while bombs are flying and or bombs are falling and missiles are flying. However, we it is going to take more than just falling ordnance to defeat this problem. The people there has to be boots on the ground, but those boots can be Iranian dissidents that want their freedom and are sick and tired of living under this oppressive Islamic regime.
Yeah, and I need to speak to people like Ebtin Vasiri. We did a whole Freedom
Yeah.
Talk issue on Iran that had some very good analysis in it. I'd love to take part in some of those conversations as well. And in terms of Iran, you kind of have to do just maintenance or go all in. You can't go halfway. So,
Yeah.
stopping them from having the nuclear capabilities and then getting out could be one strategy. But otherwise, if you're going to bring the military in, you better take out the leadership, because they're going to hang on and they're going to figure out ways to be a continual thorn in your side. And I don't envy President Trump. He's been between a rock and a hard place. But again, I
Yeah.
question some of his advisors that they have not advised him well.
Yeah. And before we move on to the next topic here, I do want to mention one other thing. Motabi, the gay Ayatollah, as we've been calling him, he was nowhere to be seen at his father's funeral, which, again, I'm pretty sure this guy's dead. If he isn't dead, he's as brain dead as Mitch McConnell is right now. So he's not going to be leading anything, which leads me to believe it's really the IRGC that's in control right now. Maybe not. And again, we'll get more into this with Annie tomorrow, because her and I both have a variety of theories on here. There's certain ones that we lean towards, some that we agree on, some that we have slightly different opinions on. But regardless, we don't know. But this problem needs solved once and for all. And I hope we can fix it before midterms, or I do think this is going to be a drag, especially if we have gas prices spike back up, which I'm sure they will. I'm almost afraid to go look right now because I needed to get gas yesterday and I put it off because it was so freaking hot out here. And now I'm going to have to get gas today, and it's probably an extra 50 cents a gallon now.
Yeah, not to mention groceries and everything else.
Yeah.
It's tough, and we have some real problems and issues right now. And honestly, I think where we need to start is President Trump needs to either fire or ignore some advisors and start listening to the people, because we're headed toward a disaster in the midterms. I don't think President Trump's advisors are keying him into just how many people are very upset and dissatisfied. Even people who have really liked Trump and supported him. I think what happened on the 4th of July with failing to extend this clemency was a huge mistake. And then we have Donald Trump teasing that he might pardon, Puff Daddy. This
Yeah.
isn't playing well with people. They feel like there's a set of conservative elites, and they don't matter, and that this has to be fixed, or you're going to
Yeah.
keep hemorrhaging people. We already have a third party that's starting, and I don't necessarily agree with some of the people in it, but I think they, in spite of some big disagreements I have, there are some points that they're making that I think are valid.
Yeah, and I've talked about this with a few people over the last few days, and I think this is kind of the danger. I would much rather see a lot of these people run within the Republican Party that are moving over to this third party and push things in that direction, kind of like how we're seeing the DSA influence the Democrats right now. Because there's a lot of things where we got to get back on task. We have to actually do the things that people voted for, and we've got to actually use the power we've been given. That's the big problem with the Republicans. They're a bunch of wimps, and unfortunately, we're seeing that right now, especially with this unwillingness to pass the SAVE Act, or the Save America Act. Even though, again, it has 85% broad support across America, but I don't know. And I think really this Mitch McConnell, as we discussed yesterday, I think this connected to it too. I think they would rather wait. So basically, if they don't announce and he doesn't drop out by, I can't remember. It's the first week of August. Somewhere, I can't remember if it's the 3rd, the 6th, the 7th, but first week of August. If he doesn't drop out, then the governor of Kentucky, who is a Democrat right now, Andy Beshear, may be able to appoint somebody to that seat, which of course he's going to appoint a Democrat. For the remainder of the term, rather than having a special election to fill it with a potential Republican. And, yesterday everybody was floating Massey should jump in that race immediately, because I don't know if they want to spend another $35 million to defeat him once again. If he could get in the Senate, that would be even better. Because, again, we got to stay on task. We need constitutionalists that will actually hold Congress accountable. A lot of the problems we're in is because both sides just don't listen to the restraints that are in front of them. We instead do whatever's convenient at the time.
In his first inauguration, President Trump talked about returning the power to the people, not political parties, not politicians. I haven't seen that materialize, and I really think this government is broken beyond repair. And I'd like to see the people rise up nonviolently, if at all possible, and say, look, we're going to take it from here, because we have a responsibility, as Thomas Jefferson said, to evaluate the conduct of our rulers. I want to interject something here quickly, because we can learn a lot about current events from looking at history, human nature. There's a great podcast. I can't recommend it enough. It's very popular. It's The History of Rome by Mike Duncan. He has a book called The Storm Before the Storm, The Beginning of the End of the Roman Republic. And I pulled a quote from that is very instructive. He said, further investigation of the fall of Rome reveals an era full of historical echoes that will sound eerily familiar to the modern reader. Rising economic inequality, dislocation of traditional ways of life, increasing political polarization, the breakdown of unspoken rules of political conduct, rampant corruption, endemic social and ethnic prejudice, battles over access to citizenship and voting rights, ongoing military quagmires, the introduction of violence as a political tool. And this one jumped right out at me. I have it highlighted and I posted it. A set of elites so obsessed with their own privileges that they refuse to reform the system in time to save it. And I see that in living color right now. We have appointees who everybody says, you're not doing what we voted for. And yet they keep promoting their personality, putting stats out there, trying to impress us, dazzle us with bullshit. We have, representatives in DC who are more concerned about their image and their stardom than they are about doing the right thing. We are in the late stages of empire right now. That the signs could not be more clear.
Absolutely. Actually, a good transition. I want to pull up this tweet that you have, and then we're going to play this. This recording is from inside the DOJ, made on October 7th, 2025. Should have every victim of weaponization, their allies, and their attorneys asking serious questions, as well as the media and lawmakers. Most of all, Donald Trump. We are deeply concerned by what it may mean for your administration and those who trusted it to address weaponization. Let me go ahead and play this, and I'll let you go ahead and respond.
When we fight them front on, they know how to beat us. So we've got to fight them differently. We have to be at least thinking that way. On the restore, even that's a trick and a trap, because there's no way that there will ever be a fund administered by anything passed by Congress that's worth a shit for actually people. It will be done in a way that helps lawyers, bureaucrats, insiders, politicians. It just won't happen.
So the DOJ's response to this, me making legal recordings and deciding to reveal their own words in context. In this case, Ed Martin, who I think is a good guy that got outmaneuvered and
Yeah.
taken out of a position of power. Their response has been to censor me, to try to influence, bribe, intimidate journalists. They flew someone down to see a prominent journalist who then pulled my story. Emerald Robinson's been great. She refused to bow to the pressure. She's run these stories. They actively prevented me from going to their counterfeit roundtable. I organized a press conference for the targeted parents that happened July 15th on Capitol Hill, the Capitol Triangle. Todd Blanche prevented anyone, including Ed Martin, from attending that. So I think this is very strong evidence. I'm a small voice. I wish someone would take this up who can investigate it. Senator Hawley talked about a special prosecutor look into these things. He's disappeared. I have his phone number. But Ed knew that a restitution fund would fail. He said it quite clearly. Is this one of the reasons why Todd Blanche quietly, secretly got rid of Ed Martin? A lot of people don't even know that he's not over the weaponization working group. That body doesn't exist. Jonathan Groves and others left in disgust. And, so they had this supposed roundtable for targeted parents. They brought up Sam Sorbo and some other people where the parents said, "You don't speak for us." And they blocked the rest of us from going there. I'm the recognized leader of this movement, and they blocked me. And it's because I brought the goods on them. I revealed who they really are. So this is the DOJ once again chilling free speech, censoring protected speech, and really being thuggish and doing what the deep state does. And like I said, I'm a small voice, but this should be front page news. And again, I think I have inside sources that tell me that Blanche tried to completely fire Ed Martin. He couldn't accomplish that. Ed kept his job, but he's now a small role in the pardons department. And I think Ed's thinking was, well, at least if I'm here, I can do some good. I understand that in a way, but I also understand that many of us have lost our jobs and our careers and everything telling the truth. And I wish Ed Martin could just come out and say, look, this is what happened. Joe Hoff, Gateway Pundit, Grant Stinchfield, and others have brought the evidence forward of what actually happened. But it's like this well-kept, well-suppressed secret. And meanwhile, Todd Blanche and his cronies are doing this PR program to make him look like he's the best thing. Well, he's been over the DOJ for the whole time. He was running the department while Bondi was a figurehead. And what has he done? Where are the arrests? Where are the firings? Kash Patel sat up at this meeting and said, "Oh, well, we fired the FBI agents involved in this." Well, what are their names? You didn't talk to me. You didn't talk to me about the FBI agents I have in my email records. How do we know? It's a whitewash. And again, it's a set of elites so obsessed with their own privileges that they refuse to reform the system. And I think the evidence is very substantial that Todd Blanche was installed to protect the deep state from the will of the MAGA voters.
Yeah, yeah. Essentially, they're going to wait out Trump. But again, this is another reason why we can't have half measures. Yeah, that things don't get done, and then it allows this problem to fester. You've got to actually clean out the poison, fire all the people. I don't care if it slows down operations for a little while. It'd be better to fix the actual problem, the core,
Mhm.
root out the deep state, this legion, as what's his name called it, that is still embedded there. Uh, why can I not think right now? I can see his face in my head. But John Brennan, and again, we keep seeing the DOJ dangle out there 8 different times now. Oh, there's a grand jury impaneled. We're about to get an indictment. Wham, wham, wham. Well, they started bringing that up months ago again, trotted it back out for the 8th time. I'll have to go back and look and we'll see when that was again. But, and still nothing, no arrests, nothing's advanced with the grand jury.
And they're showing their hand because they're arrogant. Like James Comey just waited out John Brennan. They're showing their plan. Todd
Yep.
Blanche was a Democrat until 2024. He was an Obama prosecutor. He worked in the Southern District of New York. Suddenly he changes his colors. Well, what has he accomplished? And in my case, after years of being unlawfully surveilled as a private citizen, framed, set up, having my life destroyed, somehow I'm misbehaving for doing illegal recording and sharing the words that they gave. Look, you work for us, we don't work for you. So go to hell, Todd Blanche. I'm just
No.
going to say it. I don't work for you. You exist on my taxpayer monies. You're duplicitous. You're a fraud and you need to be fired. You should have been fired the moment your senior attorney said those words about these poor parents who are still waiting for recovery, still being persecuted, by the way.
Yep.
They've got no relief and no help. And I'll tell you something, I'm not going to divulge too much right now, but I am working on a legal strategy, very serious for these parents. And I need some support. So if you want to go to givesendgo.com/freedom talk, if you want to go to Venmo at Kelly-Walker-150, I'm not trying to build an organization. I'm not one of these mama bears trying to build a bullshit nonprofit, no offense. But we've seen all that happen. They get nowhere. They take selfies. They have parties. I'm going for the jugular, like metaphorically. I'm not a violent person, but I am a papa bear. We don't fight like women. Okay. I am going to help these people. I'm going to put together a legal strategy. I'm going to put together numbers. If you want to help cover my time, that would be great. I hope you'll donate because I'm actually putting things on the ground. I don't want soirees. I don't want fundraisers. I don't want selfies. I don't want cocktail parties. I want to help these people. And
Yep.
there are some great, don't get me wrong, there's some great mama bears and I respect and appreciate that. But where are the men? It's time the men found their balls and stood up. And we fight like men. We don't fight like women. Okay.
Yep.
We've been emasculated for years. We've been toned down. We've been called terrorists. Look, I'm 6'4", 240 pounds. I'm very strong. That doesn't make me violent, but I fight like a man. Okay. I'm not going to fight like a woman. I'm not going to negotiate with monsters. I am going
Yep.
to go after them with everything I have short of violence, everything legal, ethical. I am coming for you. And I don't mean
Yep.
that violently because I've never been violent. But look, if you're a mama bear out there and you're expecting people like me to fight like you're going to tell me I'm misbehaving because I'm going in and giving them some of their own medicine. Step aside. You're not
Yep.
effective anymore. I'm not running for the PTA. I'm a
Yeah.
warrior and a fighter, and I'm helping these people. I talk to them every day, and I'm not going to let them down. And it's not about me. I would rather not be doing this because it has been a really difficult road. But do
Yeah.
not criticize me for fighting like a man. Okay?
Well,
And
the bottom
men,
line,
start fighting like men. Our
yes.
country was built by men like me and like Michael and those who are willing to speak out and stand up against tyranny. It's time for men to find their balls and stand up and be men.
Yeah. Well, that's what, Congress needs too. Again, you can't just collapse because, you've got a few people at the New York Times and MSNBC writing mean stories about you. We've got to stick to our guns. We've got to do the things that people voted for you to do, or they're not going to come out to the polls this next time through and we will lose the House.
Well, there came a point, Michael, where the people who founded this country 250 years ago, they tried to work through British law, through Parliament,
Yeah.
appeal to the king, write all these letters, every bit of bullshit we're doing now. And at some point they said, that's enough. we're going to write down on paper, fuck you. Sorry for my language. This is a declaration of independence. Don't tread on me. I'm going to live my life. We have had our natural God-given rights violated again and again and again. And these feckless members of Congress who are sitting at a 10% rating at best right now, we still think we're going to go back and ask for their help and just vote harder.
Yeah.
And I'm not suggesting any kind of, insurrection or anything like that. That's not in my nature. I'm suggesting we stand strong on our rights and say, you shall not pass. Don't tread on me. And I think some of these people who are slated to go to prison, frankly, their communities ought to surround them, because the left's been very good at this. We somehow are off in La La Land. Surround them, go around their house and say, you're going to have to arrest us all because we're sick of this bullshit. Find your
this is the problem,
men.
They will arrest us all and they will protect the left. That's part of the issue. And it's part of why people don't show up. Is the message was sent out to chill people following January 6th and any other time that the right has gotten together.
I'm talking about nonviolent protests not being provoked.
Even then, they will arrest us. That's why people are...
The problem is we have too many people who are sitting at home not getting involved and letting other people do the work. I think J6 was a trap. I don't think people should have walked into it. But instead of bum rushing Washington, go into your community, show up. You can't stop all of us if we're in the cities and the state. Look, this is what the left has done. They have infiltrated down to the level of attacking local businesses. They are so well organized. We have to be the antibodies to this virus, to this disease. I think it's a really bad idea to descend on Washington, D.C., but I think it's a really good idea to start standing up and saying, you can't have my rights. It's not an aggressiveness, but it's a standing strong and firm and saying, no. Look, John Hancock and Samuel Adams, Governor Gage of Boston put out a warrant for their arrest. They defied it, and Sam Adams said, tell Governor Gage the advice of Samuel Adams to no longer offend the feelings of an already exasperated people. That's the example we have set for us 250 years later. Do we have that kind of courage? I hope we do, because we're going to need it.
Yeah, I have my doubts because, again, this is the real issue. Is what we really do need to do is descend on DC. It needs to be top down and bottom up. They need to fear people again.
Politically and socially, but not,
Kelly,
not get caught up in to look like be portrayed as terrorists.
Well, I don't even think that matters anymore, because again, if we don't have the courage they're going to treat us like terrorists no matter what. If we have the audacity to step on their toes and push back, I mean, that's what they're doing right now with anybody even wants to protest against the data centers or anything else. They're saying, well, you're going to be domestic terrorists. So, I think a lot of this is out the window. It doesn't matter. But we are going to have to find the courage, and it's going to have to be top down and bottom up simultaneously. We have to take back our local communities, but we also have to make these politicians in DC actually fear the people again. And really at the point, they need to be in fear of their lives, because otherwise they're not going to do anything. They will continue to circle the wagons. They will make excuses, as we're seeing in the Senate. They need to actually do what we put them there to do, or nothing is going to be fixed.
Well, I'll tell you, this is a great place for a quote by John F. Kennedy. A nation that is afraid to let its people judge the truth and falsehood in an open market is a nation that is afraid of its people. Todd Blanche is afraid of me because I have the truth, because they didn't expect a school dad to come in and give them some of their own medicine. That's why he is, afraid to let its people judge the truth and falsehood in an open market. That's why he doesn't want me talking. That's why he disinvited me from the event where I should have been the one testifying on behalf of a lot of people, because everybody knows I've led this. These people are cowards. I don't disagree. And look, I don't disagree with you, Michael. I wrote an article in 2021, very first issue of Freedom Talk magazine. Go to realfreedomtalk.com, look up that first issue and look for the article called How to Murder Millions. I saw where this is headed from the beginning. And I was saying these things at a time where people said, oh no, that can't happen. It has happened in nations, and they've always said the same thing. It can't happen here. And they've been so mild. And by the time they woke up, it was too late. Like the Warsaw Ghetto, there were
Yep.
Jewish resistance fighters trying to smuggle in weapons, saying, "Hey, we got to confront this. This is what's going to happen." The Jewish leaders said, "Oh, you're just making it worse for us." By the time they woke up, it was too late, and they put up a valiant fight. But they fought to the last man, even fighting underground, but they were crushed. That could happen here. Y'all better wake up and read that article and take it seriously.
Let's jump to these last couple of stories. We got to sneak something in here because we're almost out of time. Beyond parody, candidate Maine leftist want to replace Graham Plattner has allegations against him too. And again, this, like we discussed yesterday, this isn't, if they really cared about Plattner and these allegations, they would have got him out of there the first time he had the sexual misconduct allegations from the other ex-girlfriend, or maybe the Nazi tattoo or whatever. The real reason they're finally abandoning Plattner now is because all the polling shows he can no longer beat Susan Collins, when before there was some polling saying that he would just ahead. It was going to be a close race. So now the minute he's behind, all of a sudden they want him out of there, and their tone shifts from protection to removal. But once again, the other person they're trying to airdrop in there right now also has sexual misconduct allegations against him. So again, it's never about what they say it's about. It's not that it's too much heat. They would have abandoned him when the Nazi tattoo stuff came out. I would at least say that they were consistent, but they're not. They don't care. But yeah, this is the Maine Democrat Party right now. Oh yeah, and also they're very upset. One of the party chairs in Maine, she's out there saying, "Well, Plattner's trying to put this thumb on the scale and influence who we replace him with." Well, of course he is. And he's the one that won the primary up there. You guys are the ones that voted for him. So if he's going to drop out of the race, which I'm not convinced he will, I think he may just try to ride out the storm and not care, especially since now all of a sudden they're stabbing him in the back when before they were said, "Oh, that Nazi tattoo in your story, yeah, we're just going to run with that and protect you." But again, they're going to get what they paid for, and the whole reason they're interested in swapping him out now is because they want to have somebody that can beat Collins and take that seat.
Well, listen to what Thomas Jefferson said. It's great wisdom. I highly recommend that y'all read the Federalist Papers. When once a republic is corrupted, there is no possibility of remedying any of the growing evils but by removing the corruption and restoring its lost principles. Every other correction is either useless or a new evil. So I think, translating it into modern times, we're not going to elect better people in. We're not going to reform the system. We need a revolution, which I say is a turning back to the founding principles. And this is what people called for. We want the DOJ, the FBI gutted, if not completely abolished. We need to start back at our founding principles. I hope and pray something like that's not violent. I hope we can do that reasonably, just as our founding fathers hoped that could happen with the British.
Yeah.
I don't know where this heads. All I can do is warn and say, this government is way out of control. We don't have a republic right now. We have something between an oligarchy and an aristocracy. And the only answer is to go back to the foundations of what this country was built upon, because we have strayed very far. 250 years for a revolution, that's a long time to go before you apply a corrective. And again, Thomas Jefferson was very clear about that too. What was it? Experience has shown that even under the best forms of government, those entrusted with power in time have, by slow operations, perverted it into tyranny. And he said the spirit of resistance to government is so valuable that on certain occasions, I wish it always to be kept alive. We have a right to speak. We have a right to dissent. We have a right to demand that these people who are supposed to work for us toe the line, or we can alter or abolish this government. That's written in our founding documents.
Yep. Well, and again, it's time we actually do that. We find the courage and something actually gets done and changed. Otherwise, this shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, but it is freaking hilarious. Former opponent of Ron DeSantis, who was once caught with drugs and a gay hooker, arrested for meth and erratic driving in Alabama. Again, the leopard does not change its spots. And man, look at that level of aging there for Andrew Gillum. That's the same guy in the middle and on the right. And it's not many years. I think that debate and him getting caught was only 8 years ago. But guys, don't do meth.
And it's odd the lack of character and quality of the candidates we're getting. Again, the founders talked about getting men of character.